Hey guys, so Duelist Cup is just around the corner, so now is a good time to start strategizing. So let's start off with what decks I think will be played during the Duelist Cup. So the first obvious one is going to be Purrely, and that's because Purrely is just super consistent and it can run a lot of hand traps, so it's in general very good at going both first and second. And you have like this disgusting recovery with my friend, and you have a one card combo starter with purrely, pretty memory, happy memory, purrely delicious memory. Well, not exactly, but for the most part, right? Purrely sleepy memory, yeah, that's one card too. So let's see, which one actually isn't? So this one, choose one card on the field. So I guess you need technically a second card that's on field, but that's not super hard at all. And then we have purely delicious memory, choose one monster on the field. So I guess like technically you need like some kind of monster to use delicious memory with, but those conditions are not hard to meet at all. So I would still consider these more or less like one card combos. And then, of course, my friend Purrely can add any of these to your hand. And then, yeah. This pretty cracked. And of course, they have like the option to make a billion material Zeus and stuff going second. And they're just in general pretty hard to shut down and somewhat hard to deal with. And of course, Purrely Noir is somewhat hard to deal with as well. Even if you out purrely Noir, you should be trying to get lethal somehow after outing this. Knowing that your opponent, there's a good chance that they did the really annoying combo where they use purrely to get multiple draws off of sleepy memory, like a lot more. So if they have two sleepy memories attached onto Noir, they would draw two. And then purrely would turn that 2 into a 4, 3 into 6, whatever, it doubles it. So in those 6 cards they drew, pretty likely there's going to be hand traps. That's because they go through some of their engine, right? So if I activate, for example, purrely pretty memory, that summons my purrely from deck, and it is no longer in deck, which means I'm like, even if it's just a little bit, every single summon like this, and every single card they search, makes it that much more likely that they will draw into their hand traps. And then draw 6, you know? Pretty high chance. So you have to kill them through hand traps, or set up something that they can't deal with. Considering they actually also will be activating my friend, unless you remove this first. My friend will add 3 of their purrely cards back, so they can add like their sleepy memory, pretty memory, delicious memory, whatever. And also, these are not hard ones per turn, in case you're wondering. Not even the effects on these are hard ones per turn. So, yeah. They're going to be making a massive guy, and you'll just have to deal with it, I guess. Nothing you can do about it. Speaking of which, some people are running, like, Dark World tech, but I think what's funny is with Dark World, there is one specific card that actually is a mandatory trigger for your opponent. That is, of course, purrely, Guru of the Dark World. You would probably want to be running more Dark World cards. Like, I don't know. I think it's about probably close to 9 or 8 cards. But what you can do with purrely is actually incredibly funny. So what you can actually do is you can actually use purrely and discard purrely. Of course, purrely cards all discard for effect. You can go ahead, discard purrely, special summon this to your opponent's field. Of course, you have to discard a card, but it is extremely humorous that I find that you can activate Triple Tactics Talent and Triple Tactics Thrust even if your opponent has no monster effects in their hand, or like anything they wanted to activate. They just don't activate, right? And this will just trigger Thrust and Talent like mandatory. I don't think that tech would be like super insanely good, but it is funny. So another deck in the same vein is Kashtira. You know, it's also an XYZ deck, and it's just... I wouldn't even say it's that strong going first. It's just a deck. You will still see representation for this because people will want to try out these new cards. But like, honestly, Kashtira is not that good, so nothing to super worry about for Kashtira. Purrely is the deck you're going to probably be focusing more on, and Kashtira, like, you probably won't find that much trouble with it unless you're unlucky, in my opinion. But with like Purrely, you can probably just win, you know? It'll be a good time. Well, actually, against Purrely, well, what I meant to say is, like, when you tech in your anti-Purrely stuff, Kashtira will be caught in the crossfire anyways. So, nothing to super worry about, but just in general, like, cards I think will be good for this are, like, somewhat Valor. Valor is good. So, the issue with Valor is if you draw into Valor, it's a useless card. So, running 3 of it feels a little bad in that way, but not running 3 also feels bad because then you won't see it. So, What is definitely one of the best cards? Infinite Impermanence. If you're playing a combo-based deck, you should be looking more for, like, Spell Trap non-engine, if possible. It's not really avoidable if you're running, like, either Kashtira or Purrely, though. Because you have so many mandatory triggers that, well, pseudo-mandatory. So, for Kashtira, you have Arise Heart. This is literally just mandatory to attach, and that will trigger triple tactics, thrust, and talent. So, that's not great. And then also, that means your monster effect's activated. So, Kurikara Divincarnate. Yeah. That's an easy Kurikara Divincarnate on this and this. And then on Purrely as well. Easy Kurikara Divincarnate. Because, like, you're going to definitely draw, like, if you have it for Sleeping Memory. You'll do the max amount of draws. Everyone does the max amount of draws. There are pretty much no exceptions to this. And then, if you think about it, just because we have the knowledge now that we have these cards, or, well, not cards, these decks that rely mostly on, like, one boss monster for the most part. And then they target as well. So, with that in mind, we have this now. Mikanko. There's a good chance we'll be seeing a good amount of Mikanko. So, Mikanko runs Kaiju, so that'll be able to get over Purrely. And there's a pretty high chance that they can just Kaiju like Purrely, X-Purrely Noir or whatever, right? And then they can just walk into the Kaiju, you know? They can just attack into the Kaiju, and that'll probably just be game. Against, like, Kashtira, it's just, like, Kaiju over Arisar, and then, like, attack until you've game. Same, kind of like just same thing, right? And that'll probably just be how it goes. What's this based on? Number of equipped spells with different names in your graveyard. Yeah, that's not a super big deal. So, Mikanko, annoying to deal with. But in general, because of those 3 decks I mentioned, one of the better strategies that you could maybe try to utilize is a very spell trap centric strategy. So, what I mean by that is just something, like, in general, pretty strong in the spell trap department. So, Labyrinth actually runs, like, too many monster effects, in my opinion, so not the best, but something that's not affected by Ash Blossom and Geospring would be hard to come by, but nah. One of the decks that could do, like, decent damage is, for example, like, just stun, you know? So you could use your stun deck, maybe, and that would see some decent results. And Kashtira will definitely be seeing play, for example, because during this event, you'll be getting a lot of gems, and people, like, there are a good amount of people that still haven't built Kashtira, and the event will be their chance to do so, and it'll also be a chance to test it. And of course, you won't lose ladder points, really, when you're playing through, like, stage 1, so perfect time to test and mess around with Kushtira, I guess. So, in general, it's kind of annoying, like, to deal with triple tactics, talent, and thrust. And they'll be just annoying in general. So, I think ideally you'd want, like, 2 ways to deal with spell trap. Like, so 1 Omni Negate, 1 spell trap minimum is, like, probably ideal. Because of both thrust, triple tactics being run at high quantities currently, and then following thrust and tactics, there is just all the going second cards people are going to be putting in that, just in general, really hurts most decks in general anyways. Even, for example, like, Branded doesn't, like getting hit by Book of Eclipse that much. So, of course, if you're going first and you have, like, Book of Eclipse, it's not going to be doing that much for you. But if we look at it in the opposite direction, if I go ahead and activate Book of Eclipse against, like, a Branded player, then they can't Mirror Jade negate me or anything, and let's say they have Mercurier, they don't control a monster that lists Fallen of Albaz as their material anymore, because face down cards don't count for that. Kind of like how even if you have Kushtira Rise Heart, you can't summon it if you have a face down Unicorn. If it's face up, yes. If it's face down, no, right? Same kind of deal. So I think those 3 decks will be seeing some play, but I think personally that, for example, Dinosaur is actually pretty cracked right now. But people maybe just don't realize it. We'll see, though. So I'll go over that in a bit. So in terms of hand traps you want to be playing, so there's like perks to this, you know, upsides and downsides. So Ogre, of course, is pretty good. Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, first off, this does not target. And not targeting is good against Purrely, for example, because Stray, which makes Effect Veiler also somewhat less effective, but it's just such a good card that you feel like you have to just run it, you know? So, Ghost Ogre, this is decent, but not that great. It's not, like, useless, not unplayable. It is alright, and that's just kind of where it is. So, for example, Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit against Unicorn is actually decent. So, if you draw into Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, though, awful. That's somewhat like an efficiency thing, but whatever. So, if Chain 1 Unicorn, Chain 2 Ghost Ogre Snow Rabbit, your opponent, if they add Kushtira Theosis, they better have the extenders in hand. They better already have, like, Fenrir in hand or something like that. If they add, like, Birth, then they have to Birth back Unicorn, probably. Or they have to special summon a guy. Like, if they have a Fenrir, they have Fenrir, I guess. And then they can special Fenrir, and then special Unicorn. But during this whole interaction, the important thing to note is that Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, if you activate this on Unicorn, Unicorn doesn't banish from your extra deck, which is pretty nice, so. Plus, well, I'll give it a few bonus points for that, you know? So, yeah. Effect Veiler. Effect Veiler is good because this, a little bit different from Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, because Ghost Ogre is useful against decks not named Kushtira, more so. So, for example, against Purrely, you can activate Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit on My Friend, or you can activate this against Purrely or Purrely when they attempt to XYZ summon. So, that is pretty solid in general. But there is a bit of an issue with Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit against Purrely, so against Purrely specifically, this is only a destruction effect. So, if your opponent happens to have specifically, let's see, so it's not this. This only protects monsters. Let's see, this one. This chooses one card. Purrely Happy Memory. Choose one card on the field until the end of the next turn. The first time it would be destroyed by card effect. It is not destroyed. If your opponent simply has Happy Memory, it doesn't work. And this is actually just destroyed by battle, actually. So it's just Purrely Happy Memory. So, yeah, this protects against Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. So, that sucks. So you would much prefer like something like an untargeted banish. So Ghost Mourner is, I believe, not that. We'll check real fast. This targets, doesn't it? Yeah, target. So just because it targets, not one of your favorite cards for sure. And it requires your opponent to special summon a monster. So you don't have much choice in activation window here. I mean, this card is okay, but not the best. So Effect Veiler does like a similar kind of thing to Ghost Mourner though. So that's pretty interesting. So Effect Veiler, of course, can just negate your opponent's monster. So we'll go back to Unicorn example for now. So if we special summon Unicorn, we cannot activate Unicorn's effect to banish or search, so it effectively negates 2 effects. So that's one reason Effect Veiler is pretty good. And since they have Kashtira Unicorn, they must have either Theosis or Rise Heart in hand in order to extend plays. So, in that regard, Effect Veiler is pretty damn good. Unless you draw into it. But of course, going second, this is fine as well. Infinite Impermanence, I think, is just a lot stronger. If we only consider Kashtira against Purrely, it's pretty awkward because they have a way to deal with targeting. So Effect Veiler is good and not good at the same time for the same reason as the Unicorn thing, where they can essentially negate 2 effects for 1, negating Purrely's effect to XYZ summon, and also the effect to search a card. Pretty good. But Infinite Impermanence has upsides as well that Effect Veiler does not. First off, you can activate this on your own turn, and that is relevant if you draw into it, or for bigger plays, which we will go into later. So this also, of course, is a spell trap and not a monster, so a triple tactics talent and thrust will not be activatable, because this is simply not a monster effect. So Infinite Impermanence has that as well. And then there's also this. So when paired with a board breaker like Evenly Matched, for example, Infinite Impermanence being activatable on your turn is pretty relevant. So if you have a board breaker and Infinite Impermanence, the play is usually actually to not activate your Imperm and to sit on it for the next turn. So if your opponent, let's say, for example, is playing Sprite, and they have maybe, I don't know, either A, their Sprite Carrot is in the graveyard, and they'll have to summon it back with Elf. Or they just don't have access to Elf for whatever reason. Alright, we can do one of these 2 lines. So first, we just raw activate Evenly Matched because they just don't have the spell trap negate. And then whatever they keep, if it's not a back row, imperm, and then you just play for free. And all of their like monsters and stuff, they're just gone. And they went through a lot of materials, a lot more than if we just Infinite Impermanence them immediately. And it'll be much harder for them to make any sort of play next turn. Either like just starting a combo from scratch, more or less, just going through all those main deck resources and extra deck resources, or what they have left, or like rebuilding with stuff from your graveyard with, like, for example, Sprite Elf, summoning back, I don't know, whatever. But with Infinite Impermanence and Evenly Matched, you also have the option to, for example, negate the Sprite Elf when you try to go to battle phase, and then we'll just have 1 card on field, and in general, you are just better at this point. And of course, Evenly Matched in general is a pretty solid card. This is very effective against both back row decks and combo decks, you know, so pretty solid, and you do want some backer removal, so generally I think 3 evenly matched is pretty solid. The more control decks being run, the better evenly becomes. So Ghost Ogre, pretty mid. What's a pretty solid card? I think Ash Blossom Joy Spring is also pretty solid, as per usual. Ash Blossom Joy Spring, effect to just negate a search. That usually does a lot, or negate a special summon, whatever. It does the Ash Blossom thing, and in general, that's pretty good, right? So, the best point, I think, to actually negate purrely is the only time they can act, well, actually, 100% guarantee the quick play they want from their deck to hand is when they activate My Friend. So, saving Ash Blossom for My Friend is pretty nice, and also Ash Blossom doesn't target. So, Stray Purrely Street doesn't work. So also pretty good in that regard. Against Purrely specifically, more so than, well, this can somewhat hurt you. It depends, but whatever. Joel and Lockbird is pretty solid. So this kills the unicorn line for like Kishtira. So the line is special summon unicorn, and then add Theosis, and then you'll want to special summon Fenrir, then add Rice Heart. If they don't have the pieces in their hand already, this stops them from getting a third body on field, and that in general just stops a Rice Heart. And then, of course, Purrely just needs to add like a billion cards to their hand. So this does not kill their turn, but it hurts them significantly. So, Purrely effect, this will not be possible. They cannot do the Excavate, add 1. Purrely, that will not work either. My Friend, this turns that off as well. And in general, this brings on the hurt. And further discard, some Purrely players will be running stuff like Shadalls or like Dark World cards, and they won't get the draws or adds off of those either. So, even more pain, they're just kind of somewhat stuck with bricks in their hand, and that'll suck for them, I guess. So, in my opinion, right now, this is one of the few times, because I don't know why people stop playing Floodgates, maybe they want to have fun. So, like, the Valence stuff, that was seeing so much play, like, before, like, the Kishtira selection pack, it's like, yeah, guys, really? You're doing the same combo to just completely floodgate people out of the game, unless they have hand traps. Or, you lose the coin flip, and you just lose, because your deck's not that great, honestly. At doing anything except for that, like, really obnoxious, like, Fossil Dino play. And Secret Village. And also giving you a field spell so you can't activate evenly matched. But, getting a little sidetracked here. So, a deck I think is pretty good here is Dinosaur. Dinosaur, with how the engine works, this has insanely strong going first, and going second plays. And the balance of non-engine to engine for this one is pretty good, so it has pretty high consistency. So I think Dino, pretty solid. Some people might be saying something like, oh, but a Rise Heart, what if your opponent has a Rise Heart? So, and what if they do? Normal summon Soul Eating Oviraptor, right? And then you can add any dinosaur monster from your deck and either add it to your hand or send it to the graveyard. So this ends by effect, so it would effectively get banished. So not super important, honestly. But yeah, this kaiju, this is this here. This is, yeah, this is a dinosaur, alright. And then, you know, you can just use this and kaiju over the Rise Art and you're just fine. It, like, in general, you're doing okay. It's not like that bad. But like, I mean, Dogron, I'm not like super crazy about Dogron. What I think is like more noticeable is you can't target after activating Lost World first off. So yeah, even your rank 7s, like every single rank 7 pretty much ever targets. And I don't know why that is, but it is true. So even if you make the Dark Arm Dragon XYZ monster, Lost World prevents this, and to follow up, you're already running board breakers anyway, so you'll probably be able to remove like more or less the entire field because it has no protection. But you also have room to run all sorts of going second stuff, and in general these won't brick like Dino at all, which is pretty wild with Dino. Also, you have a lot of good plays. So True King Lithosegum, the disaster here. This allows you to rip Zeus from your opponent's deck, which is actually pretty good. And this actually rips 2 more cards as well, so it rips some tech cards as well in general. And can really hurt your opponent. Notably, like, for purrely, you can banish, let's say, for example, X-purrely, Happiness, and then, Zeus. And then for Kashtira, I don't know, go, like, banish Big Eye, Zeus, and then Dark Arm Dragon or something. Or maybe Baron, whatever you feel is relevant, right? So you can just banish those, and all 3 of those are pretty much just gone, right? And you also get the information of your opponent's extra deck, which is great. And your end board is pretty damn solid. So first off, like XYZ decks, going second into Dinosaur is really hard. So you have the Evil Swords, so you'll have that. You end on Borreload Savage as well. And then you have Apollosa. So you're ending on like Spell Trap Negate usually, along with Borreload Omni Negate. And then you will have your copy of UCT. So that's a one-sided Book of Eclipse onto your opponent whenever you feel, you know? And then after that, there is also the Misc Protection, if that comes up. That will be mostly useful against, for example, a Purrely. And it'll help you set up what you need to deal with Purrely, I guess, right? Notably, Purrely, X-Purrely Noir targets as well. So you can go ahead and activate Lost Worlds, and then they can't target you, and if they cannot target you, it gives you, like, some pretty gnarly options. Pretty nasty options, one might say. And since we're in this kind of meta, I guess you could just probably throw in Kurikara, Div Incarnate into, like, Dino, and you'll probably be doing, like, pretty decent. And not just Kurikara, there's just, I mean, Raigeki isn't, like, super crazy here. But yeah, just going second stuff in general, like Book of Eclipse is kind of like alright. It's better against Cash, and Cash just bricks so hard that sometimes they just self-destruct, honestly. So let's see. So, well, I could go more in depth into dinosaurs. Just know that dinosaurs in general are pretty good. And of course, going second and first, they have plays. So the non-engine will more or less carry the going second part, but even just summon Pankratops is enough to out a copy of Arise Heart. So you're just chilling, really. And continuing on, we have let's see. Like, just for example, if we go here and then here. Well, let's go through this, I guess, and see what's good. So, insects. insects I don't think are super great right now. They'll be fine going first as per usual, but whatever. So a lot of things are like semi-viable right now, if not like decently viable. So Gishki Sprite. Honestly, this deck is just, in my opinion, pretty trash. This is just a downgrade from what people were probably playing like right before the Gishki stuff came out. I mean, granted, ban list happened, but there's probably something better you can be doing. Like, all this does is it gives you a bunch of monster negates, but like, why? What does this do for you? You have to run all these like random main deck cards that are, in my opinion, pretty useless. Like, if you open Gishki Vision, what does this do for you? Like, I guess you can still normal summon the Summon Sprite Blue, but wouldn't you much rather normal summon like a monster that actually does something? That's just my opinion though, I guess. Whatever. And then we have Draco Slayer. Going first, fine. Going second, it was always like not that great. Going second, that's like most ban decks, I guess. So yeah, whatever. Then let's see. Ninja actually is kind of okay. It's like got consistency issues and it can't really deal with Noir. I don't think you actually have a single way, like just if you think about like in archetype, there's like not a single way for you to possibly out like Purrely Noir. If it's unaffected, like you can make Boral Sword and attack into it, but I mean they can put Boral Sword back into the deck, or if you have like Goddess, you'd have to Goddess it, but like how do you Goddess? It's just not gonna happen. Like summoning guys with that deck, yeah, that's not easy at all. And then what else do we have? Drytron? Would Drytron be that great? No, not really. It's whatever. Good going first. The going second power on this, not as great because they hit Herald of Orange Light. So that's whatever. Oh, I guess there was Tier. Yeah, Tier is just mid. It's whatever, you know? It could be even worse than mid, potentially. So, whatever. And then we have, let's see. I guess Sword Soul. Sword Soul, well, whatever. It still does the Sword Soul thing. Math Mech. A lot of people were playing Math Mech recently, and I don't know why. Math Mech will just be Math Mech, I guess. It's just whatever. You just hand trap a lot, basically, and then you do your access code OTK line. And in that case, Dinosaur is pretty good because it can rip out all of their, like, cards that end the game unironically. Who would play more than 3? So, banish Terahertz, banish access code, and, I don't know, let's say you have one more for some reason of something that can end the game aside from those two. I mean, you have to banish different names, so whatever, but banish that too. Cool. Chillin'. So that's great. So then, let's keep it going. Vendred? Yeah, I don't think Vendred's like that crazy, but like, what is nice, I guess, is this effect, but that's not a trigger effect. This is an ignition effect. This would stop your opponent from being able to activate cards, you know, just monster, spell, or trap cards for the rest of this turn. So that effect's cool, I guess, if you can resolve it. I think that's at its peak when it's going first, so whatever. Trap Tricks. Yeah, so going first, Trap Tricks is, like, fine. Going second, Trap Tricks is pretty bad, so would not recommend Trap Tricks. You would ideally be looking for something with some, like, viable form of play, like, for going first and second. And, yeah. Trap Tricks, in my opinion, that's not it. So then, what else do we have? Branded Bestial. Branded Bestial? Is Branded Bestial that great? It's fine. It's not going to be like super insane or whatever. You have like the ability to run your hand traps as per usual, and your bestials are not going to be that live, I don't think. Unless you happen to encounter a deck, but the majority of what is going to be played or being played right now, I don't think is going to be bestialable, so you'll probably be just using bestials like on themselves. And then I guess Dragon Link is also a thing. So is Dragon Link that great? Yeah, they play a lot of bestials, and then that's it. I don't think they're that great. It's pretty whatever. It's not like a bad deck, but it's not like that insanely good. So, the way they play through hand traps is not as good as how like Purrely could get through, like eating hand traps left and right, you know? And then there's also the fact that you're running bestials, and bestials see the most value when people are playing dark and light decks that are relevant. Like, for example, Purrely is playing light or dark monsters, but banishing their Purrely monsters in the graveyard doesn't really do a whole lot. Unless you can banish like all of them, you know? Then they can't like recover them with my friend, or not my friend, with Purrely Yeep, and shuffle them back. They wouldn't be able to do that, and I guess it'd be relevant then, but that would be like around like what, turn 7 when that's actually relevant. So yeah, I don't think that's getting too much mileage. And then going further down, Rika. Yeah, Rika is indeed Rika. It's just whatever. It's more of a going first deck than going second, and it doesn't have that many good plays for going second. Not that high up on my list personally. And let's see. Hey, it's Savage Coliseum. Blackwing. Blackwing is alright. The engine is like fairly small for the Blackwing combo, but they're going second plays are kind of like they exist, but they're like awkward to go into like against, for example, either a Kchtira end board or a for example a Purrely end board. And on Noir, you don't have a super good way to remove Noir, honestly. So it's kind of like whatever. And then of course like being banished just sucks because you can't activate Shamal. But being having all of your cards banished is not unplayable actually. But it's just not very good at all. You do have one really good play though. So if you actually make Blackwing Full Armor Master, because the activation is mandatory on Arise Art, you can take your opponent's Arise Art and then start turning the tables around on them from there. So I guess that's a thing, but you have to somehow manage to make Full Armor Master, so it's like, kind of annoying to do so, considering they can also trigger Unicorn to banish Full Armor Master, but to play around that, you could just play 2, you know? That's fine, that would work. Then, let's see. Oh yeah, Naturia Runic. Naturia Runic is probably okay, but not so much against Purrely going second, so would not super recommend that one. That would be good against them going first, being able to set up Naturia Beast, right? Nat Beast. And then with Nat Beast, you'll just negate every single Purrely spell that gets activated, and it's kind of the same deal against, for example, a cash player. So, going first, you're doing pretty solid. Like, most decks do solid going first anyways, it's just whatever. Not, like, ideal to only be able to go first. You want to be able to go second as well. So, Punk, also problematic, because, Foxy sends for cost, and Foxy is pretty essential to the combo. But you do have a good way to out X Purrely Noir. with Psychic and Punisher. Psychic and Punisher has enough attack points to just attack over it, and it's not affected by Noir, assuming you made it with your punk cards, right? So you would be life points down your opponent, and that's about all you need for that to kind of pan out. And then you can just sit on that for a while, and that helps in that regard, but against, like, Ishtira, somehow you have a bad enough matchup, it's just meh, whatever. And yeah, we've gone through most of these now. Okay. So, going a little further back, let's see. In terms of, like, cards you can run, so a lot of cards are just super good for only going first or second, which kind of is, like, unfortunate. So, Destructive Daruma Cannon. This is pretty niche, actually. So, this also flips your monsters. So, playing a combo deck, you don't really want to be activating this. And even if you control a Towers monster that doesn't get flipped face down, it gets sent. I mean, overall, if you can play this as a control deck player or whatever, you know, like, back row moment, this is pretty good for you, just in general, going first. It can potentially do some board breaking too. It's just a bit of RNG if it does so or not. And this is something people are playing for purrely. So Herald of the Abyss mostly. So this also outs a Rise Art. So this will be able to also out X Purrely Noir for you, which is pretty nice. So this is just yeah, pretty good. This works on, like, share the pain, basically, right? And then your opponent will have to send their card. So, for example, if your opponent had Rongo Miniad, this would work on Rongo Miniad as well, if it wasn't banned. Anyways. There is also, let's see, I guess, Book of Moon and Book of Eclipse. So, I mean, Book of Moon, honestly, just hurts you a lot of the time, more so than helps you. So you're better off playing, like, Called By, I guess. Or, like, Cross Out to deal with your opponent's, like, Ash Blossoms and stuff. But, as, like, going second and going first, this is good against Kishira, not that good against Purrely, because you can't Book of Moon Noir, and that'll be problematic. So, yeah. Not the best, but it is what it is. So, kind of hard to meet so many conditions, but ideally, you don't want to be activating too many monster effects, so somehow, like, the best end board you can make in this meta is just, you know, this one, the Valence one. Okay, you cannot activate spells, and you cannot special summon. This end board is probably the best you could do. So, Valence can somewhat go second as well, so going first end board, this is probably the strongest one you can do right now, because how do you break through this? You can't. You just simply have to have hand traps, and they probably have cross-out Called By, so rough. Really rough to deal with Valence going first. I'm not 100% certain how good their going second is, but it's pretty decent considering they special summon their monsters, like, fairly for free from hand. Like, yeah, that's not the best to deal with. Yeah. And then following this, we have, like, just, I don't know, any deck that can afford to Ibly lock you. That's good going first as well. Well, what's your opponent gonna do? Kaiju you? I guess not. What are they going to do? Play the game? I guess also no. I think this is just a thing that some, like, Mathmech players are doing as well. So, I don't know, they normal, like, Ibly, and then they make, like, whatever. And also, like, Circular can just special summon itself anyway, so special summon Circular, and then you can just, like, normal summon Ibly later if you want. But, I mean, you'd probably do it after circular, would you? Yes. And then you can make, I don't know, Almirage, Lingaribo, whatever you want. Actually, the most annoying thing they can do is just this. They link it off, not for Almirage, but for Balinks, and then they just summon the rest of the guys in defense, and also have a copy of the field spell. So then what will end up happening is, let me find the field spell real quick. I'm having difficulties finding it. What? Where is this? Oh, here we go. Sanctuary. If your monster battles, you can pay 1,000 life points and target one living monster you control, make its attack 0. If two monsters' attacks are 0, they don't crash, even though it's the same value. It's just how it works, I guess. So you can't crash Ibly like that. Yeah. Speaking of which, Salamangreat, mid playable, you know. A lot of decks, surprisingly, are alright in the playable factor, but in terms of something that super stands out to me, nothing like super stands out to me right now. You guys have a deck in the well, a deck that does super stand out, like against, like, for example, Purrely Cash, feel free to let me know. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.